Okay, it's 6:32. We're going to get started.
Good idea. What do you think? Oh, it was yours too, but we didn't know
You guys ready?
that. Yes.
Okay. First thing we'll have is public comment. No one signed up. Mrs. Furlong, you're the only one here. You good?
Just announce what the meeting is. I think that helps on the film.
Oh, okay. Pardon me. We're going to do a few meetings tonight. Finance first, followed by facilities, and then personnel. So we'll start off with finance. And the first item is review of contracts for approval. And Sean, that's going to be you, right?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, first contract we have is Kids Piece tutorial services for the students identified within the contract at $40 an hour. Has been reviewed by solicitor. The second two contracts were for Wilson Language Instruction. These are for a reading program for students under Mrs. Burkholder. Item D is the National Constitution Center. That's for a field trip for North Middle School. Cost is listed there. E is the Palace Center. This is the high school class of 2018 prom, June 1st, 2018. We have to put in a $1,000 deposit. F is Justin's yearbook agreement for South Middle School. G is Mobile Ed Productions Incorporated. This is an assembly at Siler. And H is PA School for the deaf for a student. And I is Comfort Inn and Suites, and this is the hotel stay for the North Middle School Drama Club to go to the thespian conference. All of these have been reviewed by, or are under review by Attorney Cox. Any questions on any of those?
I have a question.
Sure.
Concerning items B and C, which appear to be for the same or something very similar, the costs are obviously different. And in addition to what appears here on the agenda, if you look more deeply, it sounds like the individual in item B is charging for other parts of the service as well. And my question is, these are basically contractors. Well, did we set up criteria for this, or did we just accept whatever the folks who weighed in and wanted to do it were asking for? Because it appears they're very different. I'm sorry, I know this is, I meant to ask Mrs. Burkholder this morning.
Right.
Did not get it done.
Mrs. Burkholder is the one that negotiated the contracts. These were their, I believe, the rates that they are currently contracting at, both of these instructors. And we can certainly find out from her why the difference in the hourly rate. I know she did have the solicitor review both of the contracts, for content and legality. In regard to the difference in the rates and the compensation, I can't answer that right now, but I'll get back to the board on that tomorrow.
That would be great if you can. And as I
Sure.
say, in item B, that individual, it appears to me, is going to charge, in addition to the hourly rate, some additional charges as well, which will make the differential there even greater.
Right.
One thing I can add to this, Dr. Yarnell, is I know there are certain students benefit from this program, and we are sending people right now to be trained, but we really didn't have the trained people in-house. And because of the IEPs and what was required, Ms. Burkholder was scrambling to try to find people that could deliver these services as soon as possible.
And this is the first year for it? Because I don't remember doing this in the past. Is that correct?
We really haven't had Wilson.
That's what I mean, yes,
Correct.
this particular provider.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question about that because I know there have been parents who've been asking for Wilson for years, and the district has never offered the Wilson program. So I'm just wondering what changed, what's different.
Ms. Burkholder and myself, in research that I've done and from her former district and having worked with this before, she just knows that certain students do benefit from this type of program. Not everybody, but depending on the disability that they have, this will work for them.
So is there a certain time commitment in order for the program to be successful?
I'm not sure. I think you almost work your way through and you can almost graduate out of it when you're ready. I don't think there's just a set amount of time.
And so will this be offered in all of the elementary schools and they'll just go where they're needed?
I think that's the goal.
And will it be in the middle school or is it only elementary?
I think middle school as well.
Okay. And then are two enough or?
Well, I think for the students, the needs we have right now, that they are, but that's why we're getting more people trained.
And so the goal is to train some of our, it's a reading program, right?
Correct.
So train some of the reading specialists in.
It doesn't even have to be reading specialists necessarily. It
Just
can
any-
be somebody who's a certified teacher that would like to have that certificate.
Okay.
I know from personal experience in North Penn, this program has been very, very successful with students. And they were expanding the program, including more teachers to get trained, and then they were also offering it this summer to certain students that were having a lot of difficulties. So this program apparently has been very successful, and I think the data supports it.
Yeah, I'm just, so like I said, I've known parents who've been asking for years.
That's why.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just want to jump in one moment too, that we do have a handful of staff members that are already going through the Wilson training certification process as part of the tuition reimbursement program. So they're taking classes in Wilson that will benefit the district, which I thought was nice, that they were willing to go that route rather than take a professional development class in something that wasn't providing, direct benefit to the students. And they're just about at their completion of their certification now.
Okay, thank you. So anything else in those set of contracts? And maybe we could hear more about this program in the curriculum or I guess that would be the place. And I think the reason we haven't, or we're not, or we didn't, is because we're trying to get it started. So it seems like a step in the right direction. Okay, second item, just give me a second to get back here. And that second item is going to be Sean as well. This is a 2017-18 budget motion that we want to try to get enough support for to put on in the meeting for us not to exceed the index this year. Sean?
Okay, this is kind of the first step in the budget process for 2018. The state came out earlier, or in September, and told us that the Act 1 index will be 2.5% for the 17-18 fiscal year. So basically what that means is school districts can raise taxes, real estate tax rates by 2.5%. And if they need to go over that, they would need to either have an exception or go to a voter referendum. We're at the point now where the available exceptions are very much dwindling and drying up. We have two options. One is special ed, which historically we have not qualified for here based on the information that I've seen and learned. And the other one is the special ed exception, which this year we will see an increase in in retirement, but the increase is much lower than it has been. In the last few years, we've been seeing 4% increases in the retirement rate. This year, it's going to be about 2%. So net impact to the budget is going to be about $640,000 for retirement. Looking at that as far as an available exception from that, we could possibly, based on my initial calculations, qualify for maybe about $450,000 of that $640,000 by exception. However, when we take a first look at the budget for next year, the 2.5% increase in revenue, that equates to approximately $2.1 million of additional revenue just on the real estate tax. that would be 3.38 mils of additional tax to make that $2.1 million up. And comparing that to what I've calculated so far with retirement rate and teacher contract costs without any potential retirements or anything like that, that's about $600,000 in addition to the retirement. And potential increase in healthcare, looking at right now, just looking at about a 5% increase. Because that is the last few years is where we've ended up in the end after we initially put a lot, like 9% in. That's about $425,000. So in the end, that's about $1.7 million in additional expenses, and we qualify for $2.1 million. So after that, the net available is about $400,000. So that's not looking at any additional revenues and any other of the line items in local tax or local revenue. It's not calculating any type of increase from the state, and it's not calculating any type of cost reductions due to retirements and so forth. So at the most conservative look at this point, it seems like we would be okay to put a resolution in place for the index and move forward there in that time frame then to work on a budget. Any questions about that? Or any concern?
Not a concern. I support this proposal. I do believe that it makes life easier for the administration, first of all, in terms of putting together the budget, fashion, timely or not, fashion that gives you a little more time, knowing that the state is going to be uncertain in all cases, seemingly. And obviously, many of the other numbers are nowhere near finalized at that point. So I would support this to go forward.
Would we vote on this month?
We can vote on it this month, yes.
So is that the plan? Because normally we would do this in January, right?
There is a deadline to vote on it. That's the drop dead deadline, last date, but there's no too early date to vote on.
Okay.
Okay, so there was a resolution attached. Anyone looked at it? I don't know. Is that the one we're going to, that's where you'll send it off to Rob if you haven't already?
Rob has already reviewed that resolution that's attached and has approved it.
Okay. So I agree with Dr. Yarnell. I think it gives you more time. I don't see any reason not to do it. And I think you're being conservative. What you mentioned today is definitely a what'd you call it, first conservative look at it? That's good. Okay, so then that'll appear on the budget, on the agenda. Thank you, Sean.
The next item on the agenda is a budget calendar. This is an Act 1 budget calendar. What I've tried to do within this budget calendar is over on the PSD, or Pennridge School District dates, in the last column to the right, try to give you the dates that we would work on the budget, but also show you what the dates we would have to meet if we did a preliminary budget, and the dates that we would work from if we did the Act 1 index and then did the budget for a first approval in May. So based on your thoughts tonight about moving the Act 1 index forward, I will go back and clean this calendar up and just use the dates that are for the normal budget calendar, and then we'll start working on that flow of information from the schools and to the schools, and they'll be the first ones to start to develop their budgets, come into the system.
And if I could just add, we talked about helping out with the administration. Last year, Mr. Delbert and I met with all the directors and administrators. You can see there, like mid-November to early December. So we're really asking, like, for example, principals and everyone else to be foreshadowing ahead and thinking about what's going to happen very, very early. If you go with what we're recommending, then it will push us into January, February, so that is a help. I mean, not that we wouldn't do the other if that's what you wanted, we certainly can and we have, but just wanted to point that out.
Everybody okay? We'll clean up, good, Dr. Hill.
Let me ask the question of, I note that the two actual voting times for the proposed final and final budgets are indeed the 30 days apart that they need to be, but they're not the fourth Monday of the month, they're the third Monday of the month. Is there a reason for that, or is it really that you're just trying to avoid getting too close to the July 1 deadline?
Yes. We're
Both? Or, I'm sorry, I asked two questions.
We are trying to avoid getting too close to July 1 because there's a lot of work that needs to happen in order to get the tax bills out by July 1. And the closer we get, the harder it is for that process to happen.
Although I think what you're saying, Dr. Yurnell, because all our other meetings are usually the fourth Monday, could we possibly go with a later date in May and June? We could, because in June, the 26th is the Monday, we still, if for perchance you folks would not approve the budget even on that night, we still have a few other nights that week where we could come back together again if we needed to. So we could move it, but it's kind of the cushion, as Mr. Dawbert explained.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely, thank you.
Okay. So Sean, the next one is also, looks like it's going to be you. And I think, just to set you up a little bit, you've been meeting with some representatives from the tax collectors, and you're going to bring us up to speed on your meetings. Is that pretty much what this is for?
Right, we had one sit-down meeting with the group, the tax collectors, the ones that could make it, plus Amelia was there, Jane Ducey, who is our tax clerk here in the admin building. And we met with those folks and heard their concerns and their requests, and then asked them to put their thoughts in written format so that we could actually share with you their actual thoughts. So it's coming right from them. But what I want to do now is provide you with all the information that I have gathered regarding tax collector compensation. I have pulled together tax collector compensation from districts, our neighboring districts, and the rest of the districts in the county which chose to respond to our questions. And let's just let you know that the deadline to set compensation rates for tax collectors isn't until February 15th, 2017. So we have time. But I wanted to start to get the information to you, as soon as possible. So our deadline for first board meeting time would be a January meeting. And what we need to do is we need to set tax collector rates for the period beginning in 2018 for 4 years. And the rates have to be set prior to the whole 2017 election process starting. So we have to set the rate before, so that the people who may want to run for tax collector know what they're going to be paid while they are in their role as tax collector. So that's why this is happening so far ahead of the time. And it is required that the rates be set once every 4 years, and it's up to the board to set those rates. So the first attachment I have for you is our current resolution, which Pennridge School District passed, which governs the current process, and this resolution was back in January of 2013. And what we do right now is for every tax bill that is issued, the tax collector gets $4. And for every installment bill, if the person tries to go into, or chooses to go into the installment process, the taxpayer is paid $4 for each of the first, second, and third installments. So it's 12. So for the total process. There is a $1,500 stipend that's paid to tax collectors who issue less than 1,000 bills within their township or their borough. I believe we have 2 of those. Plus, we also pay $1 to the tax collectors for sending final notices out to the taxpayers. So at the time where the folks are in the penalty period and will soon become delinquent, any bills outstanding, the tax collectors send a final notice and we pay them a $1 for that. And there's some other parts to the resolution regarding, turning money over to the district and so forth. But the main part of the resolution is setting that compensation rate. The second handout that I gave you, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Second handout I gave you is a history of tax collector pay by township or borough from 2000, 2001 up through 2015, 2016. Jane Ducey, our tax clerk here, put this together, and she updates it each year. But it's interesting. You can see what each of the tax collectors make based on what we just talked about, the amount per bill. And this pay to the tax collectors is just what they are paid from the school district. This does not include township or county. They have their own rules and their own payment structure. So this is just what they're paid for collecting the school district taxes, each of the tax collectors. Okay? Is there any questions on that one? Okay. The next one is a survey of the Bucks County school districts. Plus, at the very bottom, you'll see Souderton School District. Since Souderton is an adjoining neighbor to us, I wanted to get you that information also. But this spreadsheet will give you an idea of throughout the county how much the tax collectors make per bill, and whether they're paid based on bills collected or bills issued. And you see, at the bottom there, on third from the bottom, you can see we have our $4 per bill on there. But for example, our neighbors to the north, Quakertown, pays $2.75 a bill. Plus, there's some incentive built in, 25 cents for maintaining office hours, and another 25 cents for a specific collection system. Souderton is $2.25 a bill. It's one of our neighbors. Central Bucks, to our south neighbor to our south, they're at $3.50 a bill collected. And the rest of the districts are there on the spreadsheet. So just to kind of point out to you our immediate neighbors. Okay. And it also will show you which districts reimburse for postage, printing of bills, tax collector supplies, and tax collector software. And we do, Pennridge does pay for the postage reimbursement, printing of the bills. We do reimburse for their supplies. Okay? Any questions about that information?
Yeah, I think we need to maybe, I can't take it all in at one shot, so I'm gonna keep listening for now, but I might have questions.
Well, okay, the fourth attachment I have for you is the actual proposal from the tax collectors, the document I received from them. And what they're asking for the board to consider is to tie the wages for the tax collectors to the support staff contract. If you see on the sheet here where it says new, and it says to determine a fair cost of living increase for the new term, we look at the school support staff contract, which averages 2.3% per year. So what they're talking about is having an amount of $4.40 per bill issued at the beginning of this 2018, the beginning of this 4-year cycle, with a 10 cents per bill increase each year. Continue the $1,500 stipend to Dublin and Silverdale, and continue the $1 final notice that will be issued. And continue reimbursement for all items that are reimbursed. And then an additional administrative allowance for unreceipted items for the remaining collectors. That would be 5 cents per parcel. Okay?
Could you tell me what unreceipted items are, some examples?
That.
We have tax collectors out there.
Yeah, that would be great. Hi.
Well, the next part down has some explanation.
Hold up a second, just relax. I
Right,
have this
and
thing.
under reimbursement, it says reimbursement requests are submitted with receipts. However, there are reimbursement requests for receipted items as well, such as forms and collector bill printing, although.
So why
still
would
not-
that be receipted?
It's the forms, using the forms you've developed, right?
In the tax law, can you come up to the podium, please? In tax law, it requires the taxing districts to pay for. Can you turn your microphone on? I hate to be a. Oh, sorry. That's okay.
There you go.
Okay, for forms, blanks, ink, and I think it was books or something. So what happens is the paper and the ink we do get reimbursed for, but the forms that we create, which are, everything, everybody uses forms. Those things we really don't get, we don't buy, we've created them and use them. So I looked up at what forms would cost, and of course they were, crazy at Staples, just to come up with a rate that $5, 5 cents was really low. A lot of them were 19 cents. And the extra bill printing was for duplicate bills. We have the option of getting a whole other set of bills printed, so that when somebody loses one, we have one. We felt that was a waste of money to pay for a whole set of bills. So we just charge for the ones we have to actually print.
Okay. Did I do a fair job explaining?
Yeah, the only thing is we weren't tying it to the support staff. We were just using that as an example of
Okay.
a cost of living, what a rate would be. You've been wonderful to work with.
Thank you.
Really happy with, the relationship we have. And right now, the ones that choose to, we do put in a request for reimbursement, which we've been getting. And what we were asking for is rather than to put that in every year, like the county gives us the administrative allowance, which just covers that through the year, so we have it to when we're printing the bills and we're buying those things. So it wouldn't change what we're getting, except for that we would get it up front rather than at the end of the year. I've been doing this for 4 or 5, well, quite a few years, and I've tracked, you know, an average of what it comes out to be. So that's what I use that formula to come up with a pay in the beginning of the year, opposed to actually counting everything and coming out at the end of the year. But it's not asking for anything more than what we already had. It's just a shift in how it's, you know,
Now
issued.
Now we do it on a reimbursement.
Right, now we do it on a reimbursement, and the 2 municipalities that get the stipend wouldn't be doing it because that's what their stipend is for. But, you know, we all have those costs to run an office up front, and that would give us those costs up front. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments about this? Because I don't think we've really discussed it in a couple of years.
4 years.
Some of the numbers don't really match up with what you were saying. The county rate doesn't match up with that. I don't know if we want to, you know, say this without thinking it through. I don't know if we want to, you know, use a comparison, but we still, this is our school district, so we could do, you know, we could still vote to do what we want to do, use that as a guide. I was just wondering, I maybe should have asked you, Sue, while you were up here, where you got that number from, the 496 per bill issued, and I think Sean's was around 295. Is that the number?
Yeah. For the county.
Are you following what I'm asking you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The county does a staggered pay. So I think right now the first 1,000 bills are 8 something a piece. And then from 2,000 to 4,000 is maybe $4.95. And then the last one might be $2.95. But we get a whole sheet from the county of everyone's pay and what the total is. Sorry, I'm nervous. So what I did is I took the county sheet that were issued of what the total pay and the total parcels are, and I just did the math. So, although because I don't have that many parcels, I'm getting, you know, over $8 a bill. The people that have 10,000 parcels are getting $8 for the first 1,000, 4 something for the next. And we get $5 per interim. And they also give us a administrative allowance, which is tied to our parcels. And that's $300 up front to everybody, and then so much a parcel after that. So right now, for this year, it's $4.95, but it goes up every year. It's every year, it's that cost of living increase. So I didn't want to compare it to what I got or Diane got, because I wanted to do the average over the county, because there are some that, as far as the cost to the county, it's $4.95, although some of us are getting a lot more.
When you say the county, you're talking about what the county of Bucks is paying for their bills, but you didn't factor in what other school districts are paying. You didn't compare it to other school districts.
No, I didn't get other school districts. I thought Bucks County was a good, because it was all 54 collectors in the county that came up with a rate that worked throughout the county. So I used that, and you know, we did come up with, last term, with the attorney and all, to say that $4 was a good rate for us. And so we're looking at moving forward, not what the other school districts did, because they weren't under the same guideline by the Supreme Court as we were. So they didn't necessarily do anything with their commission. So, you know, we're at $4, so we're just looking at what's fair going forward, and we're really just asking for a cost of living.
Okay, so that's the difference. What you've shown them is the tax collectors throughout the county, for the county.
Yeah, I don't know where you got that
what
rate,
I-
because that's the, like,
What I'm showing them is the rates that school districts pay tax.
oh,
collectors.
okay, this was the county that I
Right,
had
right.
used.
You're showing the collection costs or rate that you get paid to collect county bills.
Right,
And I'm showing them how much school districts pay to collect taxes. So that's where our difference is.
okay. Is that it?
I have a couple questions. Why are you nervous? We know you.
I'm-
We've been through a lot worse than this.
I-
This is a cakewalk.
I don't know, I'm not accustomed to public speaking.
Some people don't get better at it like me.
Yeah.
Well, here's, anybody want to say anything? Before, I have a couple things I would like to float out there. So we're all seeing it, the whole board's not here.
Mhm.
So knowing most of the people, the way we do things, my first thoughts on it were, I wish more people would have been, more board members would have been here. I think the part that's is gonna be the kick here is the first, going from $4 to $4.40.
Mhm.
Just speaking on when I saw it. Then the subsequent 10 cents a year. Sean did some fast math. I think the first year, what is it? It's going to cost about just under $7,500 to give that increase for the first year.
Mhm.
And then the subsequent years, not as much.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to be, we're seeing it tonight for the first time.
Mhm.
Oh, sort of, everybody's seeing it for the first time. And we have till February, it's only early October. We don't have any plans to outsource that I'm aware of. Do we, Sean?
No?
So what we'll have to do is see if we can come to a consensus on what we think is fair to the taxpayers. And I was glad to hear that you're working well with Sean. I mean, we haven't heard anything, it's been so quiet.
No, it's been,
So that's a good thing. So I
Kathy
think we're
was
working
easy
well
and-
together, right? Everything's, so that's my take on it. I think that's, my first glance is gonna be, is that something that we can handle?
Mhm.
And
And I do think I put in there, I think it averaged out to $253 a
I
person,
did see that.
which I don't think is an unreasonable yearly increase, but, you know, I understand, and, you know, that was something we had discussed too. But, you know, even in the past, when we were getting like $175 a bill, when I first started many years ago, we used to get 25 cents a bill every year. So 40 cents 25 cents every term. So 40 cents in a term isn't really, you know, out of the ordinary of what we normally got when you think of how many years have passed since that. I started in '94, and that's when we were getting 25 cents a bill every 4 years.
So we're trying to look out for you guys too, because if we make this too high, you're gonna have competition.
Well,
I'm only joking.
yeah, but I
Kidding
don't,
around.
I don't think you can actually by law now, but,
I know, I mean, competition, you'll have competition
Yeah.
in the election. I'm trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
I'll have a
I
little
mean,
fun with
that's why
it.
you do a good job.
So
when
I
it is
think,
elected, but yeah, I mean, we've been very happy, we've been treated well. I'm very pleased with the relationship we have with Sean and hope to continue. And we had to come up with something, and we tried to do, you know, the best of what we thought would be reasonable and fair. and show some comparisons that we were able, to use, so.
So I've never done it this way before, so I don't really know, maybe Peter could help. I don't know if we could say yes or no, or a counter proposal or something like that. I don't know if we need to do that in public or not.
I have some questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that might.
Before,
Well, I'd just like to, before you go with your questions, so do you know, is that a counter proposal? We're not deciding anything tonight.
That's fine. We
But
didn't
so it's a work in
expect
progress for us, but I don't think we need to go into what we did the last time.
that. Right, well, that's what we're all, I think it's a different atmosphere, and we're all grateful for that.
So, Mrs. Miller.
Thank you.
just to help me to understand, so it's $440, and then added to that is the $1 per final notice, and
Yeah.
5 cents per parcel for allowance, and then your expenses. So we don't have a total for that, Sean. Can you predict that total?
The reimbursement things are, well, actually, the printing of the bills and the postage is required by law to be paid by the taxing district. So that's not something that we get as part of our
Reimbursement, I understand it, but then we had the $1
So-
per final notice.
Actually, the $1 for final notice was something we reduced because the last contract, it said issued, and that's actually another bill issued. And we felt $4 was too much for that, so we had suggested that we get $1 because that is what Palisades did.
Okay. Thank you.
And, the other expenses, which are receipted, would be the paper and the ink.
Right, I understand.
But the things that we don't get receipts for because we're doing them from our own computer are things we don't have receipts from.
Anybody else up here right now?
I'm less nervous.
That's good. All right, so I guess you and, we'll all think this over, then we'll probably get a memo from Sean about what we talked about, and then we'll get some ideas flowing back in. Steve? Okay. Thanks for coming out.
All right, thank you. Have a good
You
night.
too, Mrs. Diane.
You're welcome. And Barry, everybody wants the tax collector job.
I know. They're lining up.
They are.
Yeah, no. Once they get it, they realize.
I couldn't help myself at that, Diane, I'm sorry.
When do we have to vote on this? February.
February 15th is the deadline. But you
We
have
have
to vote
time to
obviously
be
before
both this
that.
over, okay?
Okay, so that concludes this section. Is there any public comment on the finance section of the meeting? If not, then we'll go into facilities. Okay.
And
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll start the facilities.